that I went home and I cried a little bit. All right, what is up, YouTube? Today's content is a little bit different than what we normally do, and I just wanted to give you guys a quick explanation as to why. We're gonna talk about how I walked on to BYU, what that whole process looked like, how I adjusted to BYU. You know, we'll talk about what it was like to be a non-LDS athlete at an LDS school, and we'll talk about a bunch of other stuff. And I'm also hoping to give advice to people who are trying to walk on to teams, or for people who find themselves in a similar situation as I was. You see, creating content for you guys is something that I always enjoy doing, but every now and then there are those videos that are a little bit harder to make, and this is one of those videos. So we're delving into some personal stories and experiences that I've had in my life. There's a lot of things that people can learn from this. Overall, this is a very positive video. This is a very authentic video about what I did to walk on and my experience in doing that as well. And before we dive into that, I just want to say a quick thank you to all those who have hit that subscribe button. Literally, your guys' support is what keeps this channel alive, keeps me making videos. I've received many messages from people who want to support even more, and I'm excited to announce that I have started a Patreon page for this channel, and I've been working behind the scenes to create something special for those who want to support even more, which include some awesome perks. Link is in the description. I'll talk about it more at the end of the video, but let's see where we start. So in high school, my times actually were not that bad. I ran 9:13 in the 2 mile, 4:17 in the mile, and 1:56 in the 800. And at the time, that would be good enough to get you at least looked at by some Division I schools. The problem was that I was a late bloomer. My senior year cross country was bad. I had mono and my ferritin levels were at a 4, so I was not running very good. And then, you know, by the time that I got all fixed up and healed in track season and I ran all these amazing times, the recruiting season was over. So basically, by the time that I had graduated, I had gone on 0 visits and no school had even replied to my emails. Yeah, and it wasn't for a lack of trying. I was emailing all these schools, hey, can you please let me on the team? I work hard and I'm fast, I promise you guys, like, please, like, let's just have a talk. But, you know, so I'm graduated, 0 prospects. I don't think I'm gonna run in college anymore. I don't know what I'm gonna do. When 2 schools respond back to my emails, first school was BYU, Brigham Young University. That's a school here in Utah, about 30 minutes away from where I live. And then there was another school, University of Portland, also a D1 school with a pretty good program. So I go on a visit to Portland. I go on a visit to BYU. My BYU visit, that one is the most interesting of the visits because I get there, you know, I'm hanging out with the team, meeting the coaching staff, all that good stuff, taking a tour of the campus. At the end of the visit, the coaches bring you to an office. They'll talk about what they see for you and your future, and then that's where they start talking about the money. And they said, Adam, we have a scholarship for you in 2 years when you get back from your mission. And I said, okay, there's just one problem. I'm not going on a mission. I get their confusion. You know, I am not LDS. I was raised LDS up until my early teenage years, and it's not very common that a non-LDS athlete is interested in going to BYU, being the school that it is. And so I told them, I said, I'm not going on a mission. They said, I'm sorry, you know, we don't have any money for you this year. With BYU, since most of their male recruits choose to go on 2-year missions, BYU actually recruits 2 years out. We actually can't even guarantee you a spot on the team because, you know, we have so many people who are also trying to walk on. So I said, okay, great. I'll think about it. And, you know, I went on my way. I want to put you guys in the mindset of young Adam, okay? Here's this 18-year-old who thought he was really fast, who thought he deserved to be looked at by all these schools, but didn't get any of that. Ego was hurt a little bit, and it was definitely a very humbling experience for sure. I was just happy to get noticed by BYU and the University of Portland. So I knew that I had to pick. And the thing with Portland is they offered me a spot on the team and they offered me scholarship as well. Problem was that I just did not feel good about Portland. I don't know how else to explain it besides that I just did not feel good. Yeah, also, you know, a little embarrassed to mention, but my girlfriend at the time was still in Utah. She's now my wife, so it all worked out. Overall, I just felt like Portland wasn't a very good fit for me. So I chose to try and go to BYU. I texted the head coach and I said, hey, I want to be on the team. Like, let me know what I need to do. He said, all right, cool, you're gonna have to walk on. Here's the standards, here's what you're gonna have to do. There was another problem though. Since I was so late in the recruiting process and just the school process as well, I had missed the application deadline to get into that fall semester. So that meant that I would have to wait to try and walk on in the second semester in January. And I know what you guys are thinking. At this time, you're probably thinking, bro, Adam, why did you not go to the school that offered you a scholarship and that offered you a spot on your team? And to be honest, yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to think about what I was thinking at that time. All I know about 18-year-old Adam is that he was obsessed with running. 18-year-old Adam thought he was going to be the next Steve Prefontaine. I picked the school where I thought that I would be the best runner that I could possibly be. So yeah, that's started my whole walk-on journey to BYU. That was actually kind of nice and a blessing in disguise because that gave me more time to get fit. BYU was one of, and still is one of the best distance running programs in the nation. I knew that I had to step it up. This is not the glamorous part of the story. Similar to what I'm doing now, I got a job. I had to start working a 9 to 5, training on my own, getting up early in the morning to get my workouts in. All my other friends were either in college or whatever, and I was sitting here working at Walmart. So that time was definitely very hard on me, and it definitely humbled me at the time because I definitely thought I deserved to be recognized by D1 schools and to be recruited and all these things, and that just didn't happen. And so the first thing that I did once Coach Isone told me how I needed to walk on the team was I increased my mileage. In one summer, I went from 40 miles a week to 70 miles a week. Honestly, I'm extremely lucky that I did not get hurt because that would have ended my dream much earlier. Went from 40 to 70 miles a week, and then I started upping the volume in my workouts because BYU, high mileage, high volume program, and I knew that I needed to be ready to try and walk on. So the head coach explained to me the walk-on standard. I would have to come to a home meet, I would have to run a decent time, and I would have to beat some of the guys on the team. And the next home meet that I would be able to run in was January. So, you know, after months of training alone, after months of working at a Walmart, it was finally time to line up against some of the guys on the team. And it actually went pretty good. Ran the 3K. I ended up running 8:33, beat a few of the guys on the team. I'll never forget this, but Coach Isone, he comes up to me after the race and he said, "Oh yeah, we'll find a spot for you on the team." And a little embarrassed to admit this, but I was so happy that I went home after that race and I cried a little bit because I was just so stoked that all my hard work had paid off, and it just felt so fulfilling. Few things I have done in my life that will live up to how fulfilled I felt. The doubt, blood, sweat, and tears, and all the really hard things that I had to go through in that fall and winter, like, paid off. Yeah, that's something I'll never forget. Now I have made it on the team, all sunshine and rainbows. And that actually is not the case. I'm not gonna sit here and complain about anything, but a lot of people think that when a walk-on makes it onto a team, that's it. They're a part of the team and things just go well for them. While that's the story that I wanted, you know, that's not necessarily the story that I got. I had my first anxiety attack that past fall when I was trying to try out for the team. I never really had problems with anxiety in high school, but after that fall, they started to happen more frequently. You know, sometimes they would happen on the way to class, when I'm trying to fall asleep at night, or even sometimes during workouts. You know, shortness of breath, the trembling, heavy heartbeat, all that stuff is a lot to deal with, especially with it happening more frequently. I don't think running was the big thing that was stressing me out or the only thing that was stressing me out, but I really enjoyed running. But, you know, because I was having such a hard time managing my stress, managing my emotions, all those things, running became something that was stress inducing and not stress relieving. And so I suffered in silence for a bit, for a long while. It wasn't until I one day was finally sick of it. And so I marched right into Coach Isone's office and I told him what was up. And that was the best thing that I ever did. He got me hooked up with a sports psych, normal psychotherapist. You know, he did all these things to really help me. And, you know, after that, my relationship with running got much better. My relationship with school and everything honestly got much better. My life outside of running got much better. And that's honestly why I'm still running now and why I'm posting my content for you guys, because I really learned to love running, and that just wasn't something that I wanted to give up so easily. So, but yeah, it felt good to tell someone. It felt good that someone who I was working with every day so closely knew. And honestly, it was a really good thing. And I'm really happy that I had that relationship with Coach Isone and the guys on the team. I was able to kind of open up a little bit. So, you know, you don't realize, especially in the NCAA, how common anxiety and those type of things are. I wish it was talked about a little bit more. That's why I didn't say anything for so long, because I was like, well, everybody else is doing just fine, so I'll try and thug it out, right? And it's something that a lot of people go through, and, you know, coaches see all the time, and they definitely want to know. It actually took me a long time to feel like I even belonged on the team. This wasn't the coach's fault. This wasn't the team's fault. They all did a really good job at creating a space where I felt welcomed, and a space where I felt like I belonged. But there is just this thing, I don't know what it is. I call it like the walk-on mentality, where it puts a chip on your shoulder. I had a huge chip on my shoulder once I graduated, and I felt like nobody was looking at me. And you know, while a chip on your shoulder can be a great thing, I definitely think taken to an extreme, it can be, you know, something that's not very good for you. You know, my chip really helped me stay motivated. It really helped me develop this work ethic, and it really made me grateful for any of the opportunities that I receive. If you aren't careful, the chip can self-isolate you. It can make you feel like, you know, you always need to prove yourself to be worthy when you don't always need to prove yourself. And it's just not the most sustainable thing for your running career or for long-term performance. So it definitely did take a bit for me to feel like I belonged on the team. And, you know, I'm not gonna say that I completely got over that feeling. There's always that thing in your mind where you're like, oh man, but like I had to walk on to get here. And that automatically doesn't make me as good as some of these athletes who, you know, were pursued right out of high school. You know, I definitely got better, but yeah, definitely something that was still in the back of my mind that would come up every once in a while. By my senior year, I was voted team captain, which actually meant a lot to me because it just reaffirmed that I belonged there. It reaffirmed that the guys on the team actually thought that I could help lead the team in some type of way. You know, it wasn't as big of a deal as I always made it to be in my head, but it's just one of those things that I feel like doesn't get talked about a lot.
You got it, Adam! 94. You got it, Adam! Yes! Yes, Adam, yes! 8:59.
But anyways, that's how I adjusted to the team mentally and emotionally. But let's talk about how I adjusted physically to the team. As most of you know, BYU is a high mileage program. Lots of miles, big volume, big workouts, all that good stuff. I came from the opposite. I told you guys that I went from 40 to 70 miles just in a summer. And because I knew that that's just what I kind of had to do or be able to do to kind of make it on the team. It was hard at first, to be honest with you guys. I got my butt kicked for 2 years. 2 years straight, I was getting dropped in workouts. I was getting absolutely daddied by my teammates, and it was definitely an adjustment for sure. Even in my later years on the team, I would still get my butt handed to me every once in a while. That's part of being on a collegiate team in general. So my first year I finished out at 70 miles a week. That second summer I went up to 80. Next summer after that I went up to 90. Summer after that I went up to 100. It was definitely hard at first. I feel like mileage was kind of the key to getting me where I needed to be to even handle these hard workouts. In high school I was doing 3 by a mile, which is 3 miles of work. You know, here at BYU, we're doing 8-mile power runs or steady states at basically the pace I was doing these mile repeats at. So definitely an adjustment for sure. One of the hardest things that I had to adjust to was the long run. At BYU, we usually would do kind of a moderate long run. So not really a hard pace, but not really an easy pace. Typically for the guys that ended up being anywhere from like 5:50 to 6:15 pace, depending on the day and where we were running. And so that is the thing that scared me the most, was being able to go 15 miles at 6-minute pace and be able to have a conversation. And I'll tell you what, I got there, but it was definitely a process to kind of get me to where I needed to be. I would say overall, it took me a little bit longer to adjust than what I wanted, but for the most part, I feel like I did get to where I wanted to be eventually. And another question that I get a lot is what it was like being a non-LDS athlete at an LDS school. And again, I was raised Mormon all the way up until I was 12, 13, whatever. And so I was fairly used to kind of that lifestyle anyways. I mean, I grew up in Utah where like 90% of the people here are Mormon. So yeah, it's definitely wasn't something that was foreign to me. For me, in my experience, it was fine. The team was great. There's actually a lot more non-LDS athletes at BYU than you would assume. So, you know, I definitely felt like there was a place for me there, and I enjoyed my time there for sure. Here is what I learned from walking on. First thing, I learned that I'm stubborn. When I feel like I've worked for something and I deserve something, I'm not gonna stop chasing after it until I get it. And that sounds really corny. I learned that my work ethic is crazy. And I learned that I had this belief, this like core belief in myself. That's something that is huge. When you're trying to walk onto a team, you're kind of by yourself. You know, the coaches can't give you workouts and they can't help you out, and you're kind of just running and trying to get better by yourself. And so it's easy to think that nobody believes in you, and sometimes the only way you can stay motivated and get out on these runs and do these workouts by yourself is to believe that you can do, you know, what you're trying to do. My tips for people who are in a similar situation as I was in, who are thinking about maybe walking onto a school, here are my tips. All right, guys, just a quick little note from the editing room. These tips were good and all, but I forgot probably like the most important one. I'm gonna try and make this quick because y'all know I've been yapping for a long time in this video. So basically, walking on is a lot harder than you think it's gonna be. If you're trying to choose between scholarship and a walk-on, you have to know yourself really well. You got to decide if you're going to be okay with, you know, some of the crap that you have to deal with walking on. And you also have to know that once you get on the team, it doesn't just get easy from there. And, you know, it's just kind of something you have to deal with. So it's definitely the harder path for sure. Doesn't necessarily make it a bad one. And you also have to decide, like, if you want to be a small fish in a big pond or a big fish in a small pond. Wait, did I say that right? A small fish. First tip, obviously, is to communicate with the coach. I think it's important to make sure that you know the standards to walk on, you know how you're gonna do it. And I think just in general, if the coach knows who you are and the coach is trying to see if you'd be a good fit on your team, I think having that communication will actually help get you on the team. Because, you know, a lot of schools, they do recruit for times and how fast you can run, but, you know, they are also recruiting for culture, the culture of the team and personality and that kind of thing. So I think if you can talk to the coach, allow them to see your personality a little bit, I think that goes a long way in helping you kind of stay on their mind and kind of earn that spot. Tip number 2 is to stay patient. I wanted to walk on to BYU in the fall, the very first semester after I graduated. It just didn't work out that way. And instead of not running or instead of, you know, going to Portland, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna be patient. I'm gonna wait till January. I'm gonna train and we'll see how that turns out. Patience is huge. There's actually this guy on the team, Michael Otteson. It took him 3 years to walk on. He doesn't regret what he did. He doesn't regret the time that he put in. I just think when you realize that everybody is kind of on a different trajectory and a different journey, you need to have that patience with yourself because you never know what's gonna happen and you just don't know the timeline. And then my last tip is to mind the chip on your shoulder. Maybe not all walk-ons have this, but I had a big one. And I think that, yes, we've talked about this earlier, that can be a very good thing to help you stay motivated, to get you inspired to work hard, but you just have to be careful that it doesn't turn into this thing that gives you anxiety and this thing that weighs you down. Watch for the chip on your shoulder and be patient with yourself is all I gotta say, so. The rest is history. I graduated from BYU, I'm still running, and honestly, I would not change anything for a moment. I would not be where I am today making content for you guys, doing what I love if it wasn't for these experiences that I've gone through. So quick little update, starter workouts this week. I'll have a workout video for you guys next week explaining where I am with training and all that good stuff. Don't forget to check out that Patreon page. It'll have a list of awesome perks such as giveaways, bonus content, early access to content, and all this other cool stuff. So be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.